Okay, so I have this 2015 Nissan XTerra Pro 4X edition with the dreaded flashing SRS airbag light. As you can see, it's running. Airbag light is still flashing. When I purchased the vehicle, it was flashing like this. I drove it. It didn't go away. I was able to reset it by using the reset procedure using your ignition key. There's another YouTube video out there that shows you how to do that. That worked successfully for a while. The light went away, but then it came back. I was able to do that a few different times. It would go away. I could drive it for quite a while actually, and then it would come back. More recently, it stopped going away, and now is here all the time. So today I'm going to show you how to figure out what's wrong with it, and then hopefully we'll get it fixed. Okay, so I did the SRS airbag reset procedure using the ignition key, a series of turns to the on position, back off, pause, back on, back off, pause, back on, back off. I won't go into the details of that. There's plenty of other videos out there that show you how to do that. They're very successful, and as I mentioned, resetting the light initially, but when you're unable to get that to work, you can go through the procedure again. If you notice here, the flash pattern is actually giving you a code, which you'll be able to get after the third series of key turns. It's actually on the fourth time you turn your key on without turning the engine on. If you just hold and wait, you will get this flashing pattern. Your pattern may be different. In this pattern, you'll see it's one flash and then a series of 6 flashes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what that's telling you is it's a 16 code. Now, not every code is going to be the same. It's going to depend on that series of flashes, but that flashing is very important. If you do the key procedure correctly, you'll be able to read that code, and that will tell you what the issue is with your SRS system. I can provide a link in the video to show you where you can get those codes and help you determine what your problem is. I found this to be very important to be able to get this code, because if you do not have the Nissan Consult software, which is very expensive, although I will show you a way to get that software relatively inexpensively and then how to use it in a later video. But once you get this code, you can look up your problem, and then you can diagnose it correctly and hopefully fix it. So today we're going to show you how to fix the 16 code, which is a front crash sensor, and we will get back to that in just a moment. So the first thing you're going to want to do when you're working on anything involving your airbag especially is to disconnect your battery. And if you know anything about working on cars, you're going to make sure you have a 10mm socket available. We're just going to disconnect the negative post. Move that out of the way. And you're going to give it about 3 minutes to let the system discharge. And that basically takes all the power out of your airbag so that you don't have any accidents and the airbag deploys on you while you're doing this work. So while that's discharging, we're going to show you where the sensor is. Again, this is for the 16 code specifically, the front crash sensor. I did watch another video, had a hard time telling from that video exactly where that was located. So you can see here, we're right below the grill, under the bumper, and then down in this hole, you'll see your radiator, and then you'll see this sensor. And it has 2, again, 10mm nuts on that, which I've pre-treated with PB Blaster. We're just going to go ahead and remove those. Okay, so it's a little cramped in there, but you can get your socket down in there and you can get those bolts off, or nuts off. They're rusted. That's the main problem here with the sensor. In upstate New York, we get a lot of salt, a lot of rain, a lot of other fun stuff. So PD blaster, a little patience, you can get those nuts off, and then you just have this bracket. My bracket was a little rusted on. I loosened it up a little bit before I put the camera back on, but I wiggled a little bit, tapped on it, got some of the rust off. And as you can see, this bracket will come right off, and there is your sensor. And you can see it's quite rusted. Again, exposed to the elements up here in upstate New York, and that's what's causing our SRS problem. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to try to get this thing off of here. Okay, YouTubers, so what they don't tell you in most YouTube videos is that things don't go the way they're planned. If you watch any other YouTube fix-it videos, you know that usually the video is 10 times shorter than the actual job. So I ran into some little trouble. I'm off and running to Lowe's to pick up some parts, to do some fabrication, and I'll show you what we had to do when we get a chance, as soon as we're done. Thanks. Okay, YouTubers, so I'm back from Lowe's. I wanted to show you some of the tools I needed to complete this job. You'll see everything from a hacksaw to a screwdriver to some pliers, a drill bit, a power drill over here, and I even needed my bench vise. So basically, every job on YouTube doesn't go quite as planned. Normally on a YouTube video, they edit out all the pain in the ass stuff that you need to do. What happened here was this sensor, this is the old sensor, and you can see it is completely destroyed, completely corroded. This rubber seal on the bottom wore through, moisture got in there and killed the sensor. You can even see during removal I actually cracked the plug. So this is normally attached to this bracket here, which is attached to the front of the XTerra. These screws here I just purchased from Lowe's. Had to drill a hole out through the back of the bracket to remove the old bolts. Again, this was mounted to this. Those are the two bolts where we removed the screws earlier. Remove the nuts, sorry. Normally you would remove the nuts, you would wiggle this thing loose and pull it off, but it was rusted completely solid to the bracket. The bracket's quite rusty, and we weren't quite as lucky here. So ultimately I had to use a hacksaw, hacksawed through here to the back side of the bracket. It goes together like this. I hacksawed here and here, hacksawed off the bolts, removed the bracket. You'll also see that on this side of the bracket here, we still have the mounting hole, and on this side, I had to actually break the bracket to remove it from the XTerra. So I'm now going to fabricate a new way to put this new sensor, which you can see is much better shape, brand new from Nissan. Cost about $140, I believe, from the dealer. It was the best price I could find. If I continue to make YouTube videos, I'll teach you and hopefully tell you the best place to find things cheap. I'm pretty good about getting decent prices on parts. Brand new plug. Again, seal's not broken. It's pretty much feels like a ceramic, maybe plasticky piece more than metal. Could be metal, I'm not sure. But again, brand new. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to mount it to this using those screws, and I'll show you what that looks like when it's complete. Okay, so I'm back outside of the XTerra. Back here is where we removed the old sensor. You can see on the left the broken bracket where I had to break the bracket off. On the right, you can see I was able to remove that. This is your plug for your sensor. It's a spring-loaded plug. I'll try to show you here. When you remove the old sensor, you just slide that back, pull the sensor off. So I took the new sensor, put it together here using the bolts that I purchased from Lowe's. I'll show you what those are again, or I'll put them down in the link. Some nuts, lock washer, brand new sensor in here. So I'm thinking hoping it's gonna work. You know, the shield in the front here is required to keep some of that moisture off of that rubber seal or silicone seal that's on the bottom of that, to keep that moisture out, which is the reason our first sensor died. Go ahead and try to slide this back in and see if hopefully I can plug it in to that plug, even though it's a little ways down in there, but I think it'll still snap. So we'll give it a go, and I'll let you know. Okay, so it's back in. I found that I had to take that assembly apart that I put together there with the bolts and the washer. So I took that apart. Actually had to plug the sensor in first. The plug's a little tricky. It's got a spring load on it. I tried to plug it in after I put it together, and it didn't seem to want to connect. So I took it apart, pulled the sensor piece out of it, plugged it into the plug, and pulled the spring back, plugged it in, pushed a little harder, and you can hear it kind of snap, but you'll know when you got it because it doesn't come loose, as opposed to when it's not in there right, it will come loose. So I tightened this all up. It looks like it's going to be okay. We got some lock washers in there. We got this side of the bracket screwed back in. This was the unbroken side. I was unable to screw the other side in. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Probably not. But the back side of that bracket, wasn't able to screw in because of the broken piece. But it does seem like it's pretty snug in there. You know, if you wanted to buy the new bracket, you can. I believe it's $120 more for a bracket. I'm not sure it's worth the $120. It seems pretty snug. That top cover piece actually pops it in a little bit behind the top bar there and holds it pretty snug, so I don't think it's going to come out. You can see I'm shaking on it. Nothing's loose here. I tightened up the two new bolts, the two new screws with lock washers on there. Everything seems to be snug. I'm going to go ahead and reconnect the battery, and we'll go inside and see if we're fixed. Okay, so I'm back in the XTerra. I'll turn the key on here, just to accessories for a minute. Airbag light comes on. Airbag light went off. It's flashing off. Okay, it's just doing a single flash now. I'm gonna start it up and we'll see what happens. It doesn't seem to stop flashing. I'm guessing we're gonna have to do the reset procedure to make this go away. You'll notice that it's just doing a single flash at this point. It's no longer giving me the error code. So I'm gonna go through that reset procedure and we'll see if it goes off. Okay, so I did the reset procedure, turning the key again 3 times on, off, on, off, on, off. As shown in a few other videos around here, you can see the engine is running and there is no flashing light, so apparently that has fixed our problem. You will notice over here in the upper corner we have the vehicle dynamic control warning light, which I'm learning is because the battery was disconnected for a while. I'm supposed to take this for a little drive and then 10 miles an hour for a little bit, over 10 miles an hour for a little bit. The light should go away. I'm going to do that. I'm going to get a little drive, see if the light goes out, and hopefully we're good. Alright, I took a quick little drive around the neighborhood. The light actually went off by the time I hit the stop sign at the end of the block, so just a simple reset. Something I did not see in a prior video I watched, so when I first saw that light I thought, oh no, a new toy, something new to break. Again, I'm the kind of guy who I really only like things when they're broken, so I can figure out how to fix them. Hopefully you're like me, hopefully you enjoyed this video, and hopefully it will inspire you to try to fix this thing yourself. I guess at the dealer this is probably going to cost you, I don't know, several $100 between the part. I'm sure they're going to give you a new bracket, so there's another $120. Some labor, you're probably looking at a pretty expensive job for something that's relatively easy. It took me, oddly enough, several hours to get this thing done, but you know, that's usually how it goes. When you stop, it's 22 degrees outside here in upstate New York, so it's a little cold outside. Took a break to warm up, but realistically, you know, without running to Lowe's and without breaking. And if you're down south and you don't have rust to deal with, you might not even have to do this problem. But if you do, I'm guessing this is probably a half-hour job at the most, maybe an hour at the most. So hopefully it was helpful. I'll be back with some other videos if people look at this one. I do like to tinker with cars. I always have something going on around the house, so I'll be fixing something, breaking something, and hopefully helping you people out. Any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Thanks. Bye. Okay, so again, just a little clarification. This old sensor, destroyed. Rusty, corroded, disaster. The back side of this here is where I hacksawed off the sensor from the bracket. It was so rusted together, I couldn't get it apart. Tried multiple things, didn't want to waste your time on the YouTube video. Grabbed it with pliers, rocked it back and forth, tried to break it free. That didn't work. Pried a screwdriver underneath it, under the sides, all sorts of things, trying to get this free from the bracket. Looking at this, this is the way it goes in your car. The XTerra, plug to the left, bolts to the top. Those are the bolts where we removed the first two nuts, which came off quite easy actually. Took them off, removed the cover, and then tried to remove this from the bracket by simply pulling it off, hoping it would slide over those bolts. It did not do that, so ended up removing the bracket. Brought it in the house, stuck it in the vise, hacksawed it, basically hacksawed the back off, and then drilled 2 holes through the old bracket. Those were 7/32 holes that I drilled through the back, basically just lined up with the 2 welds that were on there, and then replaced them with number 10 32 1.5 inch machine bolts and a packet of number 10 lock washers on top of that. So just want to clarify what I did. You know, again, I'm not a Nissan mechanic. I'm a front yard driveway mechanic, like most of you folks here on YouTube. And you know, like I said, it seems to be pretty solid. It's on there. I'll let you know if the airbag goes off while I'm driving or I get killed in the process, but I don't think that's going to happen. I'm sure some of you will have comments about the way it works, but in my world, that's the way it works. Doesn't always go the way planned, but we get it fixed.